What is up, guys and girls? I'm back from Nationals. As you guys can see, I am completely beat. I have slept maybe, I don't know, 3-4 hours in the last 24 hours. So yeah, I'm completely, destroyed, but I wanted to kind of go over and share with you guys the deck that I played at Nationals. So yeah, this is a top 16 Nationals deck report. I guess I can safely say I topped Nationals back-to-back twice. So you guys can see here. We got the metal cell here from last year's top. And of course, how fitting would it be to give me Zamas for finishing well this time. So there you go, guys. So there's that. So before I get into the deck profile, I want to give a shout out to 3xG and Shenron's Lair sponsor Bearded Collectibles. Trust me when I say this, Alec Pastrana is the best shop owner on the planet. It is not close. We do not deserve you as our sponsor. If this weekend was any indication, the Beard has you covered for literally everything, every scenario. So yeah, you guys can head on over to beardedcollectibles.com and check out all of the merchandise. Set 8 is coming out soon. I think it's like 3 weeks, right around the corner, right before Thanksgiving. You can get cases here, as you can see on your screen, for the low price of what he has listed. I'm not going to say it just in the off chance that it changes in the future. But yeah, Alec will give you the hookup. He's going to try and give you the best prices always. Keep in mind, he also sells full play sets of cards. So if you're not interested in buying a case or anything, definitely take advantage of those offers. Again, Alec, we do not deserve you. Thank you for everything this weekend. So with that out of the way, let us jump into the deck that I played, which, as I guess I'm calling it now as a joke, United States of Janemba. So yeah, here is the deck that I played. Woo! Yeah, I know Janemba. Everybody always hates seeing it, but this is a deck that I've been working on for about 2 months, on and off with the 3xG boys and Shenron's Lair, trying to get it exactly right. I play Magic as well on the side, and arguably my favorite archetype to play is Jeskai Control, which is sometimes referred to as American Control before Wizards gave it the name Jeskai. It's called American Control because it plays red, white, and blue. So you can get USA basically for short. So yeah, you basically can call it either American Control or USA Janemba, whatever you want to call it. I know we don't have white in our game, but yellow has many of the same properties, and it just kind of is easier. I didn't really want to go with RYU Janemba, which is what I heard some people trying to call it Ryu Janemba. I'm not a fan of dragons, as you could tell. I did not want to play Shenron for this event. I wanted to stick with a comfort pick. And after how close I was at Niagara, and Samuel Martinez, shouts to him, telling me he genuinely felt I had the best deck in the room, and that if I made top cut, there was no way I wasn't winning. I knew I had to stick with it, and I knew I had to play it. So yeah, this is like I said, USA Janemba, and it is a deck that can be both aggressive and defensive. It really rewards defensive sequencing very well, just like all Janemba decks do, but I really wanted to play something that had a lot of lines of play, so that way I had an out to basically every single deck in the format. And if you look at the main board, as convoluted as it looks, I think I managed to accomplish that pretty well. So let us go over the card choices. So first up is Zeno button. It is a one of. I know a lot of my teammates criticized me for only playing one Zeno button, but I find that the matchups you need Zeno button in are basically the ones where you're trying to cast UI Goku to not die, and then have some sort of defense for the follow-up play, because usually if you UI something like Victory Strike or Kaioken, you're tapped out, and if they have anything big on board, say a Gogeta 7 perhaps, the button might be able to save you in those clutch situations. It's usually only good on turn 4, turn 5 when we're about to either win or lose the game. So that's why it's a 1-0, because probability-wise you will usually see the card by turn 5 as a 1-0. So yeah, this is kind of it kind of saved my butt. I know, again, a lot of people really criticize me for one button in my deck, but it won me at least 2 matches this weekend. So I felt that my data and math proved that it was worth it. And that's something you guys will hear a lot in this deck profile, is the data suggested it, so I stuck with it, and it paid off. 4-Dimension Magic, staple blue negate. It lets us extend plays defensively. So speaking of extending plays, Senzu Bean. Senzu Bean defensively is not super good in this format because most of your threats are 20 to 40k most of the time, so you need 2 to Bean. What makes it super worth it is the ability to untap the singleton red that you will usually charge on turn 4 for the rest of the game if you need to resolve 2 or more topos, which we'll talk about later. It's also good in the Shenron matchup because it lets you untap red again to continuously pressure with the next card, which is Sayankaba. Originally I had it at 4 in the main board. Sayankaba is what we learned from Niagara Falls. The answer to Shenron is just kill them quickly. Most people weren't really mainboarding Crisis Crusher, and most of the intel that we got talking to other teams, nobody was really playing it because it's super easy to play around. And even in this deck, yes, we do have Sayankaba, and it is outed by Crisis Crusher, but we have so many outs to Crisis Crusher that honestly, it's not even anything to worry about. It's not even a real roadblock. I wish I could have mained 4, but it impacts every other matchup so much that it's not worth it. We play 3 and hard mulligan for it for Shenron, and along with Bean and duplicate Kabas, so that way we can get awakened if we need the protection as well as rush them down. It's super important, and this along with Topo is the primary reason to go red because Topo answers many decks in the field that are not Shenron, and Sayankaba answers Shenron, so it gave me basically an out to any deck I could possibly play. Uneasy Alliance Son Goku. This is the card that Samuel Martinez said was the reason why I had the best deck in the room. I kept this quiet pretty much, unless you were in Niagara Falls, you didn't know I played this card and didn't understand why people like Trey and whatnot were trying to find this card. This card is, in my opinion, one of the best cards in Draft Box 4. It's not close. This card is super slept on and is pretty much the core of my primary win condition. So what it does is you pay 2 to negate, you get a 15k body on board, and then you get to bounce a 3 or cost or less to your hand. It could be either players. So this is great versus red to stave off Digging Deep. It's great against yellow to stave off Source of Power and any other lower end beaters they have. But its primary use is with Bojack Pirate's Pride. So you can use Bojack to negate for 1 energy, mill 1 card, your opponent can swing at you, you'll negate with Uneasy Alliance Son Goku to bounce Bojack Pirate's Pride to your hand, then they can attack, and you can either use Dimension Magic or Bojack Pirate's Pride to keep the negate loop going. So next up we have North Kai Keeping Watch. This is pretty much the staple super combo. Speaking of staples, Beerus Fickle God, basically staple check land for blue and yellow. Undying Spirit Son Gohan. I needed skin in the game against Toa to be able to bounce Time Regulator. It's just another out to the card. It's not a hard out, but it does work pretty well. I learned from playing Danny Hype in Canada that all it takes is pretty much one of these to buy you the turns needed to basically win the game. If you basically keep them off Time Regulator, at least once or twice, you'll usually win the game. It also gives me skin in the game against King Vegeta and Kid Vegeta Arrival, so that way if I defensively walk into that, or perhaps say Bardock Raider's Warcry, I can actually hard cast this card, put it back, and reset the tempo of the game, and force them to have to kind of swing into me with the Bardock or with the Arrival card. So yeah, it plays an important role, and I think that if I didn't play it at all, that I probably wouldn't have gotten as far as I could have. So yeah, 2 of is pretty much perfectly fine. Furthering Destruction Champa, staple, especially since we're playing red. This is usually red energy a lot in matchups where we don't need it. We know we can play for the mill, but when we're trying to play aggressive or we're playing against the mirror, this is the card that steals the game and seals the deal, so we have to have it. We already went over Bojack Pirate's Pride. Champa the Trickster, still in my opinion the best card from set 7. It literally locks down everything. It's really bad in the mirror, and it's not super impactful, I guess, against apes so much. But against Shenron, most of the other fair decks in the format. Tapping down attackers is a big deal, especially when it's like, say, U6. Tapping down a Caulifla is a pretty big deal. Tapping down Mira, Creator Absorbed is a huge deal. So yeah, this is a necessary card. I think if you're playing any kind of dual color package with yellow, if you don't have 3 of this in your deck, I think you're doing something seriously wrong, unless you're like an aggro deck, I guess. Okay, next up is probably the card that everybody was eyeballing from the start of this video as soon as you saw the deck list, which was Increasing Evil Mass Saiyan. Quick show of hands. How many of you guys actually remember where this card is from? So this was the special pack card that you bought in set 3 when Mass Saiyan was first introduced, and we all thought it was going to be a staple, and it fell off. Being Janemba, I can't play 5 cost or more. Most of the premier removal in the game, such as Gogeta, Resonant Explosion, Mass Saiyan, Banisher Fu, and others, are all 5 drops. Gogeta, Ultimate Fusion Warrior, they're all 5 drops. So I need hard removal. I am not Daehan. I am not on a green deck. I don't have hard removal. So I needed hard removal. And I also needed to have 5 sources of Self-Awakening in the main board to basically be able to consistently awaken by turn 3 against Shenron, so that way I stood a chance. I found that when I played aggressively with Saiyan Kaba, if I was comboing with Senzu Beans and Unbreakables, as I should be, I should on turn 4 arrive at 5 life with 1 energy open and 4 on drop, so that way I can on time get Increasing Evil Mass Saiyan to go live, to awaken, to extend my plays further, and potentially steal the game on turn 3 or turn 4. So yeah, super important. It's also super good against apes. This was an out to Bardock Raiders Warcry. If they swing and if you swing and mill 2, and then they hit you with the Bardock, hoping that they get you on the crackback, you can then overwhelm into Increasing Evil Mass Saiyan, warp the ape, and continue your pressure from there. Do note that if they have another button, you are kind of screwed. So it's kind of, touch and go. You decide whether or not you want to attack with it or not. But overall, Mass Saiyan won me a Toa matchup. It won me a U6 matchup, and it won me an Apes matchup. So I would say I was justified in playing this card. And I know that Butters and Alexis, who also played a red-blue variant of Janemba, played Boo Hercule. I felt that as cool as that was that it could loop Topo, it was somewhat slow. And as far as removal, I felt that it was worse than Increasing Evil Mass Saiyan. In fact, my only Janemba mirror in Swiss, this card actually played a pretty big role in helping me get ahead on board while still maintaining pressure and keeping my hand size 1 up on my opponent. Ultra Instinct Son Goku. In a lot of matchups, it's a dead card, but you need to play it because it's an out to Shenron. I think I played maybe 1-2 Shenrons in Swiss, and this is basically the card that saved my behind every time. It does get sided out in some matchups. It's not particularly great in the mirror, so it comes out there. But this is a necessary evil, and you pretty much have to have 2 of these if you want to do, which is what I set out to do, have a main board control deck that can answer basically everything from game 1. Janemba Agent of Destruction is their only mill card in the deck that is not Bojack Pirate's Pride and Bojack Resonant Explosion, or Agent of Destruction, I'm sorry, that we'll talk about next. The thing is that the way my deck is naturally set up, I play a lot of cards on my opponent's turn that are bodies, so realistically I'm not going to ever play Reality Bender. It's not going to happen. I know that in the mirror, people resolve multiple Reality Benders against me, but since my build is so aggressive, the Reality Bender doesn't really matter anyway. And then Demon Sword is just simply too slow in this format. Every deck has an answer to it pretty much immediately upon you playing it, such as they either bounce it or kill it with something like Vegeta the Cruel. And 4 energy, tapping out for it, like we said with Button and Ultra Instinct, is usually a death sentence against things like Apes, so we just can't afford to play removal that is that slow. That said, 6 is the magic number. As soon as your opponent's deck is 6 cards or less, if they don't have any energy opener and they only have 1, the coast is clear to basically resolve this guy and win the game on the spot. So that's why we play him. Bojack Resonant Agent of Destruction, super important card because it allows you to basically control the flow of battle. You can use it mid-battle to tap down threats. You can use it aggressively off of things such as saying Kaba attacking a Shenron with a North Kai behind it and a Bojack Pirate's Pride or a Champa. to a rival and get another attacker, and perhaps Bojack can go in with like a bean and a furthering destruction for game and be super aggressive. So that's his main role, is to be aggressive in those kinds of matchups or tap things down. Also super important to note, I caught a lot of people sleeping this weekend, not respecting it. They would swing out for a game, and you'd be able to shotgun them with a bunch of Bojack rivals and mill them out mid-combat and cause them to lose. A lot of people were really stunned when they saw me do that to them. Unbreakable. We have to play 4 pseudo combos because we're Janemba. We are a super defensive deck. It's how we survive. Obviously, we're red, so we play this oversell. Topo, Righteous Aid. This card is basically time stop from Magic on a 20k body. It's pretty stupid, honestly. I can't believe it's an uncommon. I think it's like $10 is the recording of this video for an uncommon, which is absolutely insane. I wanted to play 4, but as you can already see, my main board is super overloaded with a lot of like cool loops and tricks to out most matchups in the format. So there's just simply no room unless we cut, say, in Kaba, and only having 2 of him in the main board severely impacts the math when it comes to Shenron. So we do a 3-3 split and we call it a day. We move it to the sideboard. So speaking of sideboards, first up is Vegeta making an entrance. I knew at some point I would play against the mirror. The deck is too popular. I know that Joey and a bunch of the other content creators were like, Janemba is on the down low, it's falling. Even Frank Miller in his Mailman Rants is like, yeah, nobody's playing Janemba and doing well with it this weekend. It's the wrong pick for the weekend. I knew somebody was going to play it, and sure enough, I ran into Alexis near the end of my run in Swiss, who was one of the other Janemba players besides Trey and Scott. We were the original 4 that topped with Janemba, so one of the OG Janemba players showed up, and we had a pretty awesome duel in Swiss. And this is one of the reasons why I was able to take the game over him, is because I believe I had 3 of these and I think he only had 2, so I saw more of them. And because I have Uneasy Alliance Son Goku, whenever he swings at me with his leader, I can negate with Uneasy Alliance Son Goku and put Vegeta making entrance back into my hand, thus getting around the 1 copy only that you can have to be able to trigger the effect multiple times, whereas my opponent is not able to, because the rules for this tournament were that making an entrance, if you have 1 on board, you can't even activate counter anymore. So Uneasy Alliance being able to recycle this made me super advantaged in the mirror. Sad that I didn't get to play Dehan, but I would have been very interested to see if my red version would have been able to beat his green version. Next up is Kami Global Unifier. 2-up staple in Janemba, in my opinion. I know Dehan and other Janemba players don't like playing this. The thing is, people don't respect it. If people are going wide on you game 1, regardless of archetype, and they don't respect it, you can side in 1 to 2 copies of this and very easily take the game. I won a U6 matchup single-handedly because this was not respected. The game was basically over on turn 3. The opponent could just never recover from there. Say in Kaba, we need to be super aggressive against Shenron, so we bring in the 4th copy that should have been in the main. Next up is Gawas, Zamos' master. So it is basically 2-fold purpose. 1, it is a 4th copy of Vegeta making an entrance for the mirror, so we are super advantaged in the mirror because we have 4 copies that out it. It is also a 3rd copy of King Yama, which is our next card. So 2-drop 10k draws a card. It actually can swing against Shenron. It is also repeatable with Uneasy Alliance, Son Goku. So what makes King Yama so good over Forced Ejection is because we can mill the Victory Strike for like a Purunga ramp deck, and we can play King Yama and choose Victory Strike and Kaioken and bottom deck them. And unless our opponent is clever or main decks Purunga, they don't have a way to recover it. They basically have to spend Radar to fail to find to shuffle to get Victory Strike to be a valid win condition again. So if you play King Yama and just bottom deck the bombs, the onus is on your opponent now to find a way to shuffle their library or they lose the game. So yeah, really good card. I was very surprised that there wasn't more people playing it. I'm going to skip the next card and go on to Digging Deep. This is also for the Shenron matchup. We bring this in because we're trying to go full aggression. I find that with the 2 Mass Saiyans, the 4 Saiyan Kabbas, the 2 Digging Deeps, and the 1 extra FDC that I have in the side, it's pretty hard to lose the game to Shenron if you're on the play. If you're on the draw, it's a little bit closer, but even then, if you can bring them to 2 life, you mitigate any serious damage that Gogeta, Hero Revived, or Kaioken Goku can do to you, which means that it is manageable and therefore a winnable game as opposed to a death sentence like most people seem to think it is. The one of FDC, this could have been 1x Mifuba, and I kind of wish it was 1x Mifuba. I actually didn't side it in at all, even against Shenron. I just found that the room wasn't there. Truth be told, 64 out of my 65 cards were pretty much spoken for before I even stepped foot into Chicago. This was the one spot that I was not really sure of. So, yeah. And then lastly is the 2 Great Ape Son Goku Saiyan Instincts and the 1 extra Topo Righteous Ape. When we do not need Saiyan Kaba in the matchup, so when we're not playing against a Shenron leader, these 3 come out and these 3 come in, and they were my most sided cards for the entire weekend. 4th Topo is explanatory, it's really broken, we already went over that, but Great Ape, Son Goku, Saiyan Instincts, if I wasn't afraid of Shenron, or if Objection or Hero Revive was banned tomorrow, then it would be super easy to play the 2 Great Apes and the Topo on the main board over the 3 Kabbas. This card is just insane, especially in tandem with Topo. Being able to play Topo, discard Saiyan Instincts, pay 2 on your own turn to redraw cards, and then pass after you've already swung with leader, means that you are maintaining card advantage over most of the field. I felt 3 was a bit much because I usually only resolve 1, maybe 2 in a game, but resolving 1 against almost any player safely and having the ability to still defend your life means you pretty much win the game against almost anybody, period. You're just too far ahead on resources if you've gotten to that point. So yeah, this was the MVP of my sideboard, and honestly, aside from Uneasy Alliance Son Goku, it was probably the MVP of my entire deck. So yeah, super slept on card. I think it's still only like $10, so pick up yours if you don't already have them. Card is super, super good. So there you go, guys. That is the deck profile. This is the USA Janemba, the America Control deck that I played. Hopefully you guys like this. The deck actually isn't as helmet as it seems, guys. I know everybody always says that it's super easy to play Janemba, but if it was so easy, then you probably would have seen more of them do well at the event. This is, again, a deck that really rewards the control player, the guy that wants to play the long game and make sure that your opponent just doesn't have any options in any scenario. And again, looking at my main board, I think that I've accomplished that pretty well. So last thing I want to say, guys, thank you all so much for everyone that came out to this weekend and, you know, told me all the stories of times that, you know, we at 3XG have helped you. How you were proud of me or any of that stuff, how I've helped you in the past or things like that. It meant a lot to me. So yeah, again, just thank you. It really made my weekend. So yeah, one last thing. We'll just jump over here. Goals for going forward. Trying to be one of, if not the best Android 21 player. I think Hachiak kind of spells the end of Janemba, maybe. I'm not sure. But I think I want to put him to rest for now. I think 2 nationals tops with him is good enough to kind of prove that, you know, I know what I'm doing with him. So now I want to kind of do the same with Android 21 going forward. So yeah, if you guys are interested in playing 21, definitely consider the DBS World Warriors group for the Android 21 enthusiast. So yeah, definitely check them out on Facebook. Some really cool guys over there. You know, say hi to me and things like that in there. Until next time, guys. Okay, bye.